back to Tiny Calves. For those who are new here, this channel is focused on following the journey of completing a full-length Ironman triathlon in under 4 months. I was going back through some old footage and I realized that I did not fully explain the time in the zone and how that relates to my training. Before we understand the time in the zones, it's important to understand what the maximum average heart rate is per your age. So in order to calculate that, you will take the number 220 minus that by your age, and that will give you a range of where you should expect your maximum average heart rate to be. You can pause the video on this chart right here in order to get acquainted with your max average heart rate. After you found your maximum heart rate, what you're going to do is apply a percentage to 5 different training zones. These 5 different training zones will focus on keeping you in aerobic metabolism versus anaerobic metabolism, and we'll explain more on the difference between those two as we go. But first, let me give you an example of what type of activity you will find when you're going through each of these heart rate zones. Zone 1 is 50% of your max heart rate, and that is more of your recovery zone. So say you just went on a long run and you are finished with the run and you're taking a cool down walk. This is when your heart rate will come into that recovery zone and allow your body to replete. Zone 2 is 60% of your maximum heart rate. And what that is your warm up. So say you are about to go on a jog or you're about to go play in some type of team sport, soccer, basketball, tennis. The warm up phase is when you will ramp your heart rate into that 60% range. Zone 3 is a good zone to stay in for a lot of these endurance races. It's more of a jogging pace, or you can get up to a speed where your body can maintain 70% of your maximum heart rate. Zone 4 is really putting some strain on the body. You can think of this as a sprint or pushing your body to the max. Typical athletes can only stay in this zone for a few minutes. Finally, we're on to zone 5. This is when your heart rate is going 90% of your maximum heart rate. People can last typically less than a minute in this, and it is associated with severe fatigue afterwards. Now that we have the basis of the 5 zones, it's important to see how our body utilizes energy and how we're able to keep up when we're expending so much on keeping our heart rate high. Before we jump into that, it's important to understand the 2 different methods that our body utilizes energy. One of the methods that's very efficient and can propel you for a long period of time is called aerobic metabolism. Aerobic metabolism is thought of as the clean way to make energy, and it involves oxygen being present at the cellular level. When you're ramping your body up and you don't have enough time to utilize oxygen to create that clean energy, we go into a different state called anaerobic metabolism. I'm going to take you back to your biology classes that you may have had in high school or in undergraduate studies. It's important to understand that all of this magic happens at the cellular level. Specifically, if we focus in on aerobic metabolism, the metabolism with oxygen, this occurs at the mitochondria, also known as the powerhouse of the cell. The mitochondria is very efficient at making energy when it has oxygen and is able to produce a lot of energy to propel you for those long races. Now, when you're doing shorter, intense intervals and you aren't able to maintain high oxygen levels, you go into the different form of energy metabolism called anaerobic metabolism. Anaerobic metabolism typically occurs in the muscle cells because that is where it can most readily get energy into the strained muscle. It's also known as not as clean of a form of energy because you have lactic acid as a byproduct And if that builds up in the cells, they won't function as properly. Let's now take the concept of aerobic metabolism and anaerobic metabolism and apply it to the 5 zones. If you look here, you can see the 5 zones. And if you differentiate between all 5 of them, I'm going to draw a line right here between zone 3 and 4. Zones 1, 2, and 3, your heart rate is in a zone where you're still able to produce enough oxygen at the cellular level to utilize the aerobic metabolic pathways. Really, when you're pushing your body in zones 4 and 5, that's when you're relying on the anaerobic metabolism. In my instance, I like to do a mix between aerobic and anaerobic because I believe they have benefits on both of the pictures. With aerobic metabolism, you're really increasing the ability to travel far and get that confidence under your belt that you're able to complete long distance runs. With the anaerobic metabolism, you're really pushing your muscles and breaking them down more so that you can build stronger muscles that will allow you to run faster in your longer runs. I typically do 2 days of each discipline per week: swim, cycle, and run. And I typically do a shakeout versus a tempo. Now, the shakeout is focused more in on the aerobic metabolism, really increasing the ability to transport oxygen to those cells. And then the tempo sessions are focused in on building energy so that I can increase my times at race day. Well, that wraps up this week's video. Before you go though, I wanted to remind you that the giveaway is still going on. There is an Element giveaway, which is an electrolyte drink that I use during my long runs and especially on these hot days, that will go until July 25th. All you need to do is run your fastest mile, take a screenshot, and then tag me on Instagram, and you will be entered into the giveaway. While you're out there on those hot days and you get that doubt in your mind, I just want you to remember to keep at it, and we'll see you next week.